You know, there is a serious lack of strong male leadership right now in this country. Every day, we are seeing the consequences of weak men in leadership positions, and it starts at the very top. Right now, we have the weakest president of my lifetime, our fearful leader, Johnny B. Biden. We have weak men running corporate America. Well, we used to have weak men running corporate America. Now it's even worse. Thanks to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have women pretending to be men running major corporations. We see the consequences of weak men in something that used to be dominated by masculinity: sports. I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me bitch and complain about Dennis Allen. Trust me, all of us Saints fans, we're tired of it too. But I reference Dennis Allen so much because he is a prime example of how putting a weak man in a position of leadership can completely decimate an entire organization. For 15 years, the Saints were viewed as a world-class organization. There was consistency, there was structure, there was strong leadership. After 3 consecutive 7-9 seasons from 2014 to 2016, Sean Payton, he took a look at his locker room. He realized the culture of the team was being destroyed by players who refused to buy into his leadership. What did Sean Payton do? He got rid of them. He stood his ground. He brought in players who were willing to buy in. That's what leaders do. It takes a strong man to be willing to do that. In less than 2 years, Dennis Allen has completely destroyed the foundation Sean Payton laid in New Orleans. A foundation that Sean Payton built over the course of 15 years, it was destroyed by a spineless menace in less than 2 years. Now, I know it's not popular in the NFL to fire a head coach in the middle of the season, but if I owned the New Orleans Saints, Dennis Allen would be fired today. Hell, I would have fired him last season after Andy Dalton threw 2 pick sixes in the first half on Thursday Night Football. Coming back from halftime, Dennis Allen, he is asked what adjustments that Andy Dalton needed to make. Oh, he's doing fine. He's swell. I really like his red hair. Andy just needs to keep doing what he's doing. What? What? Dennis Allen, after that halftime interview, Dennis Allen, he would have had to have found his own transportation back to New Orleans. He should have been fired on the spot. The end result is always the same when you have weak men in leadership positions: failure, destruction, turmoil, division in the ranks. Some dudes just aren't capable of being leaders. Some dudes are just naturally weak, and that's okay because all leaders, they need followers. But you don't put a follower in the position of a leader. Now, sometimes you have people in leadership positions for too long. After so many years, their tactics, their messages, they just become stale. Now, I don't know enough about NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman to determine which category that he falls in. He's been the commissioner of the NHL since 1993, 30 years in the same job. Now, I don't know if he's a weak man who shouldn't be in a leadership position, or if Gary Bettman was once a good leader who's held on to his job for too long. Now, if I were to judge the situation based on his recent actions and some of his actions over the past couple of years, I would put Gary Bettman in the same category as Dennis the Menace. Last month, before the NHL regular season began, Gary Bettman, he made the decision to ban the Gay Pride tape. Now, this came after his decision to ban all pregame jerseys that were not hockey related. No more breast cancer awareness jerseys, no more Oscar Mayer jerseys with the jumbo weenie on the back pointing downwards, no more promotional jerseys advertising Butt Bongo Night at Club Shay Shay. All pregame jerseys that were not hockey related were banned, including the favorite jersey of the mainstream media, the Pride jersey. Ooh, I love the Pride. I'm so indecisive, I can't pick my favorite color, so I prefer the rainbow. After years of showing their dedication to the diversity dong, Gary Bettman, he was finally taking a stand. He was finally being a leader. With these bans, Gary Bettman essentially said, enough with the bullshit, we are focusing on professional hockey. I mean, that does make sense, right? When someone turns on the National Hockey League, they are tuning in to watch professional hockey, right? They are not tuning in to be mesmerized by the different colors of the rainbow. If they wanted to see a fucking rainbow, they could just walk outside after it rains. The decision by Gary Bettman to eliminate the Pride, it was supported by most fans of the NHL. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I was tired of hearing that phrase, hockey is for everyone. No, hockey is for hockey fans. The media wants hockey to be for everyone. The media wants hockey to be inclusive. The shitfucks want to see grown men pretending to be women competing against a team of women pretending to be men. But the rest of us, we want to see actual hockey. We want to see fights. We don't want to see dudes on the bench trimming their beards so it's easier to apply lipstick. The decision to ban the Pride-themed jerseys, it was made over the summer. The decision to ban the flamboyant Pride tape, it was made a week, maybe 2 weeks before the start of the regular season. The NHL season, it started October 10th. That was 2 weeks ago. Everyone had moved on. This was a non-story. Now, the NHL, they could not have asked for a better start to their regular season. They've got an 18-year-old rookie in Conor Bedard who could possibly be a transcendent star. Now, when you're a niche sport like the NHL, a transcendent star, they can dramatically change your league. They can push you into the mainstream. And stars like this, they only come around once in a generation, sometimes once in a lifetime. Back in the late 90s, Vince McMahon, he stumbled upon two transcendent stars at the same time. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. Now, that had never happened before. It ain't happened since. Vince McMahon, he's been trying to replace Austin and Rock for the last 20 years. When you come across a star of this magnitude, or in the case of Conor Bedard, a potential star of this magnitude, all you gotta do is stay the hell out of the way. In his first game in the NHL, this kid drew 1.3 million viewers. Now, that is unheard of in this league outside of the postseason. And the star power of Conor Bedard, it's boosting the rest of the league. Last Wednesday, Penguins Red Wings on TNT, they drew 700,000 viewers, an increase of over 50% from last season. Through the first 2 weeks of the year, the NHL's averaging 679,000 viewers, a 38% increase from last season. Now, if you're Gary Bettman, all you gotta do is stay out of the way. Accept all this positive media coverage, allow your stars to shine. But Gary Bettman, he couldn't do that. No. Apparently, there was one player in the NHL who had a real problem with the league banning the Pride. Now, I think most NHL players were cool with the Pride ban since they didn't want to wear it anyway. The biggest stories in the NHL last season, they had absolutely nothing to do with hockey. I mean, the media, they don't care about hockey. They barely pay attention to this league. The biggest stories in the NHL were focused on players refusing to come out for pregame warmups because they didn't want to be photographed looking like a fruity pebble. But there was one NHL player who had a real problem with the Pride ban. There was one NHL player who decided that he was going to defy Gary Bettman. His name is Travis Dermott. He plays for the Arizona Coyotes. Travis. I wonder if he's related to Travis Noah, that guy who used to host the Daily Show of Failure on Comedy Central. Anyway, last week, T-Rav, he decided, I want to express myself. I want to show the world that I enjoy a good slice of the pound my brown cake. During a game, not during pregame warmups, during a game, Travis Dermott, he wrapped his hockey stick in Pride tape tighter than a bruised caboose wraps itself in Preparation H. Now, this was a clear violation of league policy. Now, of course, this violation, it was celebrated by the mainstream media. This male birthing person is courageous. It took so much courage to display his pride. Outsports is a subsidiary of SB Nation, which is owned by Vox Media. Now, SB Nation, they have subsidiary sites that are dedicated to each team. Their site for the Saints is called Canal Street Chronicles. Their site for my Pelicans is called Pelican Debrief. Now, for the less than 1% of professional athletes who choose to identify as a letter instead of a teammate, SB Nation has a site called Outsports. Last week, the site, they tweeted a picture of Travis Dermott and his Pride tape. Travis Dermott just gave the NHL the finger. The only problem was the finger was in the air instead of inside the preferred orifice. Lord help the NHL if they try to punish Travis for this display of pride. I thought it was interesting that Outsports called upon the name of the Lord here, the King of Kings, who was responsible for writing the most popular book in the world, the Bible. I thought it was interesting that they called upon the name of the Lord in this particular instance, because according to the Lord, there are 7 deadly sins. Guess what ranks number 1 on that list? Just take a wild guess. The pride. If Gary Bettman was a strong leader, this situation, it should have been easy to handle. It's against league policy to flaunt the pride tape. It's not like this was an obscure rule because the media made such a big deal about it. What Travis Dermott did, it was an example of outright defiance. At minimum, he should have been fined. If he does it again, maybe he gets suspended. What does Gary Bettman do? Does he issue a fine? Does he bend T-Rav over his knee and give him a good spanking? Does he emulate the leadership of Dennis Allen and pretend it never happened? No, no, and no. Unfortunately, what Gary Bettman did was far worse. Instead of enforcing league policy, Gary Bettman, he changed league policy. This afternoon, the NHL quietly released this statement on social media. After consulting with our inclusion department, we have determined that hockey is for everyone and flamboyant displays of pride are not only welcome, they are accepted. Ooh, inclusion. A complete lack of leadership from Gary Bettman. This dude just bent over and begged for the cucumber. You implement a policy 3 weeks ago, and after one violation and pressure from the media, you completely reverse course. Gary Bettman, there's just no other way to say it. Gary Bettman is a weak man. He's not calling the shots in the NHL. The decisions, it seems, are being made by the diversity deputies. Now, on the surface, this is a minor issue, but that's how it starts. That's how it started last year in New Orleans with Dennis Allen. Small lack of leadership here, small signs of weakness there. 12 months later, you've got an organization in chaos with a fan base booing their team throughout the game. For 15 years, you could not get into the Superdome. I usually sit at the club level. You couldn't get tickets for less than $300 a piece. Last Thursday night, tickets were $15. They cannot give them away. Why? Because no one is paying to watch a team that does not have a strong leader, because weak leadership shows on the field. The Saints look like a JV football team. Now, will the same thing happen in the NHL? You saw what happened last season. The NHL dedicated itself to the pride, ratings crashed. The success of any organization, it starts at the top, but the failure of an organization also starts at the top. This decision, this sign of weakness, this complete lack of leadership tells me that the NHL, they have got the wrong man leading this organization. But give me your thoughts on this. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, he bans the pride tape. 3 weeks later, after an act of defiance from a player along with pressure from the mainstream media, Gary Bettman, he just gets rid of the policy altogether. Now, is that a sign of poor leadership? I know a lot of you guys follow the NHL. You tell me, is Gary Bettman a weak leader? If so, will his lack of leadership negatively impact the NHL this season? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate all you guys and your continued support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.